That was all good though, Mike.
Okay, good.
Oh, can you hold a minute? I just saw something. Sorry.
That's okay. You good?
Yeah.
Do you want the second button?
There we go. Nope.
Nope. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll continue. What did you want to, with this exhibit, what did you want to recognize in the contributions and the kind of work and investigation of inventors in the past?
So what we sought to bring together in this collection were inventions, breakthroughs, art, craft, all of which represent early stages of the kinds of science and technology that exist in UTC today. So we looked for early examples of measurements of motion, measurements of temperature. We looked for scientific breakthroughs at their earliest stages in areas that are relevant to us so that we could draw a line between those innovators, those scientists, those creators. We could draw a direct line between what they do and the kinds of things that people at UTC have been doing for almost 150 to 200 years now.
What's the significance of seeing that line, that sort of legacy
Right.
continuation?
I think it's really important for the engineers in this company, for the creative scientists in this company, to see their place in this continuum, to recognize that they are as good as people who help change the world, and yet they also represent the legacy, they build on the legacy of those creative intellects that preceded them. For people to come in and see this exhibition and to recognize their place in that continuum, I think is very important. It gives people a sense of position, it gives people a sense of belonging, and it gives people a sense of the importance of what they do, because they can walk through that room and they can see people who did the same kind of job they did, very different contexts, right? Some of these things are 1,000 and 2,000 years old. People see those in a context of their ability to create the kind of change that we set out to do in this company, and the kind of ability to deliver those high quality science and technical solutions that help form, create, manage, and improve the world in which the people today live in.
How does looking at how people in the past solved problems kind of enlighten or provide insight for the way you try to solve problems now?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. So there's a couple of themes that you'll see in the instruments in this gallery. You'll see perseverance. You'll see exploration of new technologies. There are instruments in this gallery for which certain technical innovations appear for the first time in human history. Some of those actually have continuity with things we do at UTC. There's an instrument in here that contains the first ever bimetallic strip used as a temperature compensation mechanism. Two pieces of metal attached to one another with a different thermal expansion. So when one expands faster or slower than the other with a rise in temperature, the metal bends. And in this gallery, that's used as a temperature compensation mechanism. And for 100 years, that was used in thermostats that were relevant to the carrier business. So people see first-of-a-kind technology, and they can carry that through to what they see today. They also see craftsmanship. They also see beauty. They see the relevance of doing things not just to accomplish a task, but to do that elegantly and to do that in a sophisticated and beautiful fashion. And we like to have that infused in the way we do engineering in this company.
And how does that sort of elegance, precision, and beauty kind of inform the work and lead to innovation?
I think if you look at what we do things that are very hard in this company. And when you do things that are very hard, they also have to be very precise. And so when you look at the precision with which some of these instruments were made, if you look, there are things in this gallery that they generate awe to think that the capability that people had. There are things in, sorry, wait. Okay. There are things in this gallery that really generate awe when you think about how people accomplished the precision, the technology in this gallery with the tools and capabilities they had at that time. And I want every engineer in this company to be thinking along the same lines. How do I take all the available skills and tools that I have, and how do I turn that into something that no one else can do and is precisely and ideally aimed at solving a very specific problem that we have sitting in front of us today.
What kind of attitude, you mentioned perseverance. What are some of the other attitudes that you see reflected in the work in this
Another drink, Mike.
Sure.
Here in the back of your throat.
Yep. Thank you.
And don't be afraid to ask.
You guys hear it better than I do.
So what are some of you mentioned perseverance as one
Right.
quality. What are some of the qualities and attributes that you see reflected through the work in the exhibit for the inventors, and what do you see in the people here at UTC today? What is those shared?
So we talked about quality. I think one of the other things we see is a real willingness to not say that can't be done. There are instruments in this gallery that took people decades to perfect. There are problems at UTC that we have worked on for decades to get just right. The number of people who work to bring Pratt & Whitney's geared turbofan engine to the commercial success it's having now, thousands of people working over 20 years to bring that technology to market. I look in this gallery and I see, while it's only one individual as opposed to large teams, I see John Harrison working for 40 years to perfect the timekeepers that allowed us ultimately to be able to measure longitude accurately at sea. So there's a question of perseverance. There's a question of starting at the very beginning and simply not letting go of a problem until it was well and truly solved. So that's a second part of it. I think the other thing that we see is real beauty. I think we see people who recognize that the output of what they innovate and create is also their signature. That some of the instruments you see in this room are not only scientific engineering marvels, they are true works of art. And I want every engineer in this company to think the same way. Their signature is the object they produce, whether that's a physical object, whether that's a piece of software, whether that's a new algorithm. At the end of the day, your name is the beauty that's embodied in that instrument, in that product that you deliver to market. And that's directly what we see in this gallery.
So in the past, you mentioned Harrison, for example, working maybe with his son and a few craftspeople. Have the challenges become bigger? Are the requirements for integrating more disciplines? How has that changed from the time of Harrison and those kind of lone individuals?
I think all science today is very multidisciplinary. I think the image of the lone scientist in the lab creating an enormous breakthrough that no one has ever thought about is pretty much of an anachronism. Science and engineering today are team sports, they are group efforts, and we build on a long history of how we do things. I think you see actually some of that in the pieces in this gallery. So we may look at them and assign an object to an individual, but there's a story behind every object. There's a story of what preceded, of the people and the technology that allowed that one individual to ultimately make the large breakthrough. We probably don't have that same thing happen today. We don't at the end of the day say, here's 100 people did something and now here's the one person who took it across the finish line. It really is a team sport. And I think that's just the nature, first of all, of the way we interact as a society today. I think it's also a function of how complicated the problems we work on are, that all the problems that this company contemplates have multiple elements to them. They have multiple people who have to be involved from a technical discipline, and they have multiple impacts. So when you bring a new engine to market, you're not just bringing an engine that has to be more fuel efficient. It also has to be quieter, and you have to trade off those two things as you optimize the design. I think that's a element that filters throughout all of the things we do in the company today.
There was quite a bit of yelling in front of that. It's up to you.
Then we'll circle back.
Thank you. Okay with the voice?
Yeah.
Good.
So how do you go about bringing these disciplines together? And as you said, a team sport, how do you get people to play together in a way that moves the ball down the field?
I think part of it starts with the culture of collaboration, the culture that says technology belongs across the company. That's a role that UTRC here in this building has to play. to make technology available across the company. I think if we start with that kind of culture and we encourage interdisciplinary research, we encourage people to know each other and to know the work they do. And frankly, I think that's one of the competitive advantages we have in a place like UTRC here. The ability to look across broadly the company and recognize all of the skills that are here in the company, to recognize all of the talents that are available, to then create the kind of innovation spaces that you see in a building like this, specifically designed to cause people to interact across disciplines. It's part of what we try and do from a culture and a physical building. Frankly, it's what we have to do given the nature of the products and solutions that we have to provide.
This exhibit,
Yep, you'll do it.
These are great answers, Mike.
They're only as great as the editor.
we have 2 cameras, so we can make that happen. So these artifacts represent kind of a continuum of advancement, as you say, it's going back to 2,000 years in some cases, from early attempts to quantify measurement to today. And then we have a company like UTC which goes back in some cases to the 1800s. What's the importance of a kind of legacy and continuity in a company like UTC?
So as you say, UTC is now approaching 175 years. It's a company that from its beginning was built to take on large challenges over a long period of time. Every engineer who works in this company becomes a part of that history. They know from whence we came. They know the great names that started the business units that make up this company. And yet they also know the names of the scientists and engineers who brought new breakthroughs like new jet engine technology and new compressor technology and new elevator technology. The scientists and engineers in this company will tell you the names of the people who created the coated steel belt that revolutionized elevators. And they come to work every day hoping to find their place in that same continuum. We talk a lot about the fact that UTC takes on societal level challenges. That means we're built for the long term. That means our employees work for the long term. Now, of course, they have to also understand how rapidly we need to move at any given moment. That's part of our culture of go quick, make sure we get it done, make sure we get it done right. But we also know that our businesses and our business models are about longevity. And so it's one of the reasons this gallery is so important, because making sure people know how they fit in a place and time in a larger continuum is really important. The gallery helps to do that with them scientifically. The work environment and the company history and legacy helps them to do that relative to what they do every day to help create the future at UTC.
The bangs and stuff.
It's throughout, so it's not gonna.
Signal noises.
He's cutting above all of it.
Okay.
But I can't stop him for each one.
Yeah,
Just like,
I'm not that good.
If it was 1 or 2, I would have made it.
Yeah.
we're good. We have a couple more questions.
Sure.
Okay. I'd like to ask you why you came to this company. Was it sort of inspired in what?
Right. So I came to UTC for a very precise reason. I came to UTC because I wanted a chance to contribute to a company that had the technical capability, it had the scope and scale, and it had the vision to solve truly large global problems. And that's what we do. We tell people all the time, if we had not, UTC, we had not invented and perfected the concept of indoor conditioned air, people would not be living in places like Miami and places like Singapore and places like Delhi the way they do today. And if we had not invented the safety elevator, people would not be living in skyscrapers. We tell that to people for precisely the reason I came to this company, because the people in this company and the leadership in this company for decades has always had the vision that we are capable of solving global problems. That's a challenge that I could not pass up. That's a challenge that led me to change and come here at the time that I did, and I have never looked back.
And how do you see that quality embodied and reflected in the exhibit?
I think what you'll see in this exhibit are people solving similar kinds of problems for the world at the time they were working. When it was necessary to solve the problem of finding position at sea, that was a global change that was embodied in that solution. Before that solution, before the ability to tell time accurately in a moving vessel, and to be able to correlate that to identify longitude, sea power was at risk. So there was a global power struggle, there was a global economic and market struggle, and there was a global life and death struggle to which one person was able to provide a solution to that problem. If you look at other instruments here, you'll see instruments that revolutionized being able to tell position on land. You'll see instruments that revolutionized the way we generate electricity. And you'll carry that legacy through to some of the products you see today. But all of these instruments represent individuals at their point in time solving big problems. These were not small challenges that didn't matter. The artifacts you see in this gallery do really represent people who helped change the world. And that's what we want UTC engineers and scientists and employees across the company to do every day.
What message would you like UTC employees to take away from this exhibit?
So when a UTC employee goes in this exhibit, I'd like them to think about a couple things. I'd like them to think about people who came before them, people who took their creative intellect, solved a problem in a beautiful fashion. I'd also like them to see that they belong in that same category. I'd like them to understand that they are capable, they are innovative, they are competent. Their place in the history of this company and their place in the change we bring to the world will be just as important as the people who created the things in this gallery. And I'd also like them to have a real appreciation for the beauty that comes with doing that.
And what would you like business visitors and people from outside UTC to recognize and understand about this exhibit?
You know, it's an interesting question. When somebody comes in from outside and they see this, what I'd like them to take away is a recognition that UTC fully appreciates and understands its place in history, that it understands the legacy on which it was built, and that it understands that it has a responsibility to carry on that tradition of the most creative, most innovative, most game-changing science and technology. When people walk out of that gallery, I'd like them to say, that's a company that I trust knows its place in history and knows what it has to do to continue to earn that place in history.
Need to do immediate change.